My name is Marites, Guingona, Africa. My maiden name is Guingona, married name Africa, but I'm Filipino. My husband is Africa, but he's also Filipino. I don't know how we got that last name. So you'll remember me. Very easy to remember. Marites is short for Maria Teresa. So I'm Catholic. I'm overwhelmed. Thank you, Gail, and the Global Peace Foundation for inviting me here. I have only 10 minutes. I'll speak from my heart. I cannot talk about all the activities that we've been working on in 10 minutes. So perhaps I'll just distill. I'll talk about the spirit that moved us, the lessons that we've learned through the years. As I listened to the presentations this morning, I was overwhelmed by the challenges that we face. Science and technology, the advances now have brought all these challenges, the problems close to us. They're looming large in our midst, and the need to respond to them is urgent, very urgent. So the question that was left earlier this morning was, what do we do? How can we respond to this? And I was given by Gail this topic, strategic and practical applications of a global ethic on the local level. The role of faith leaders. I'm not a religious leader. I'm a Catholic. I'm part of an organization that has been working on interfaith dialogue in grassroots communities and working with religious leaders. And they are here. Archbishop Antonio Ledesma, Imam Ebram Moksir, Alim Said Bashir, there's Imam Tara Ali, and all the other. Oh, there is also our friend, their Hans Shehangir Arslan. So many of them are here, my friends, and Dr. Shakuntala Baswani. So we have been working on the ground so many years, bringing the religious leaders and the people in the grassroots together. I am from Mindanao. It's a southern region of the country that is conflict-ridden. It has been for many decades. And I feel that while I'm here already based in Manila, I'm married to a Batangueño, and I have kids and grandkids now. There is something that I can do here, where I am, for the people of Mindanao. In 2003, we were told that there were about 1.5 Muslims here in Metro Manila. They have migrated from that conflict-ridden part of our country to find better lives for themselves and their families. What has moved us, okay? I remember early on in 1998, I was still a student of theology, and I was already beginning to ask questions about religion. And why is it that people of faith fight each other in the name of God? And I heard Lord David Trimble, Northern Ireland, he said, peace begins from where we are and not from where we want to be. It's overwhelming, and I said, okay, there's something I can do. I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm a teacher, and I'm a believer. And so, well, I'll just say now, what is the role of religious leaders? I think is really to help people of faith, their followers, develop capacities to liberate the human spirit so that they can reach out to one another in love, not out of fear, so that they can create sacred spaces, common grounds for dialogue, respect their differences. We talk about similarities all the time, but there's only so far that similarities can bring us in a relationship. Just like married couples, your wife, your husband, you realize that, well, at the beginning, you're so romantically attached to one another. You see everything beautiful about each other, but as you carry on, you get married through the years. I'm 39 years married now. You realize that there's so many things that you have that you hate about each other, maybe you're so irritated about. But see, that's what it's all about. Relationship is about how we handle our differences and how we can go beyond tolerance and actually see something beautiful in each one. So in my husband, who has grown, all his hair's now gray, and I'm sure maybe he thinks I'm not so beautiful anymore, but you know, that's beside the point. See, how do we build relationships and accept that we are different? So Anyway, let me go to the presentation. You see the wars all over the world. I heard one time this compelling words from Bishop William Swing of California, Episcopal Bishop. He said, that was in 1998, he said, of the 34 wars going on in the world today, religion is involved in virtually every one. My God, I was so shocked. So the religion, I was then a student of theology, and I said, well, I cannot be a nun or a priest. I'm a married woman. What am I doing with theology? So I said, okay, maybe religion. What is it about religion that is so violent? No? People fight each other in the name of God throughout human history. And it's very, I realized that religious extremism is not new. It's not a new phenomenon. Even in the early days, the dawn of religion, there's human sacrifices, child sacrifices, women and children, you sacrifice to the gods. Even until now, I think there are sacrifices also. And the jihad, I think, of Islam. And the other, other religions talk about doing things for God, okay? So they say war is human nature, and so is peace. So it is up to us. According to William Urey of the Third Side, I don't know if you read of him, he said that there's a study that it was only in the last 10,000 years or the last 1% of human evolution when violence and conflict came to be. And it is clear, there is clear and abundant evidence of organized violence and warfare began to appear only after 10,000, in the last 10,000 years. Why? When people started to settle in communities and started to fight over property, territory, whatever it is. So war and peace are choices that we make. When I look at my 2-year-old grandchild and my 6-year-old grandchild, and they're smiling at me and I hug them, I realize, I think it is peace that is in our human nature. And it is not war. So it's up to us. I think the religious leaders, I was very taken by the words of Colonel Steve Miska, who said earlier, is he around? He said, get involved, be a bright light. This is not a spectator sports. And that's what I want to say to our religious leaders as well, because the Peacemakers Circle, we're like mediators between the religious leaders and the grassroots people in the community, Muslims and Christians in the grassroots community. So how can religion be a force for peace, harmony, and respect and understanding and well-being in the world? So I think the religious leaders have a great responsibility. 3 minutes more. I attended one conference of Muslims, and I was struck by their conversation, their question, what is it? Why are people thinking of us as terrorists? Why are they perceiving us in a negative light? And one of the Muslim leaders said, oh, maybe because we lack iman, faith. And that was very striking. So yes, it's not just Muslims, but everyone. Even my Catholic fellow practitioners. So Hans Kung, you know him, the president of the Global Ethics Foundation. He said, there can be no ongoing human society without a world ethic for the nations. There can be no peace among the nations without peace among the religions. There can be no peace among the religions without dialogue among the religions. Okay, what's dialogue? Dialogue between religions. This is the challenge that's facing religious leaders today. I think even religious adherents. So comes from the Greek word dia and logos. I don't want to lecture, but it's not merely, in the context of interfaith dialogue, it's not merely an exchange of words. I understand many, they would be questioning in interfaith dialogue forums. They'll say, when will dialogue end and actions begin? So there's clearly a misunderstanding of what dialogue means. So it's very important. I came across the word, Latin word by Thomas Aquinas, adequatio. That means the intellect of the knower must be adequate to the thing known. We need to be adequate or have the capacity for dialogue within ourselves. So we are the instruments of dialogue. In interfaith, in the context of interfaith dialogue, we need to be the instruments. We embody dialogue, an organ of dialogue, and an instrument of peace building. And we need to be what? The religious leaders need to create that safe space, that common ground, where all of us, practitioners, can have the capacity for clarity of vision. What does this mean? I heard Mahatma Gandhi, the peace advocate, saying that we must be the change that we wish to see in the world. See, what do we see that needs changing? So we need, as instruments and organs of dialogue, we need to see what needs to change. So we need to purify this instrument. So I suppose religious leaders need to help us, help each other to engage in inner struggle, jihad al-nafs, the struggle with the enemy within ourselves that disables us from seeing the other with appreciation and reaching out beyond our differences and beyond tolerance to really appreciate one another and respect one another. 0 minutes. So I think depth of conviction, let me just wrap up. We need to have a worldview shift. The world is the way it is right now because there's so much hate. There's so much anger and fear. This is because we're all fragmented. We don't see our heart that knows, that feels, that responds to intuition, to the symbolic, non-linear, is disconnected from our minds, the intellect, rational, linear, logical, verbal. So when this is what we use most of the time. And when something does not make sense, we are afraid. So we become defensive. So I guess we need to balance that now, bring to the fore the forces of the heart and listen and be present. So the religious leaders, the faith leaders, have this calling. It's a clear responsibility to act for peace and create that safe space and common ground for dialogue. So various forms of dialogue that can bring us all together with integrity of co-creative actions. So I'll just show you pictures so you'll see our work. I don't need to explain anymore. I don't have time. There's a photo of this Imam, Ebra Moksir, he's sitting right there, and Ismail, he is an ustad from the conflict-affected community of Midsayap and Alyosan. You see the holes on the wall, they were the holes during the war in Mindanao, all-out war, and this was in a school for children. And so we need to go beyond our fear, to look at ourselves and try to befriend the enemy so that we are not afraid to let go of ourselves and be vulnerable. So I'll end there. Integrity of co-creative action. So inner work, jihad al-nafs, we call it by different names and different faiths. Intrafaith dialogue. So we will talk among our friends, our colleagues of the same religion, so we will feel that we are rooted in our respective faith and we understand what is it that hinders us from relating to the other or enables us to reach out to the other. And then interfaith relationship building through various forms of dialogue, life, action, worship, and discourse. So thank you very much. I hope it helped somehow.